Welcome to the podcast, folks. Today we're diving into a conversation originally between Jeff Mulgan and Professor Yuan Ang, discussing how global development can move beyond outdated paradigms and why our current crises might actually spark institutional reinvention.
I'm really excited about that angle. So, what are the key ideas they touch on regarding outdated paradigms?
Well, the conversation kicks off with the notion that our traditional institutional frameworks aren't really built for the challenges of today. Jeff Mulgan, who co founded the Institutional Architecture Lab, essentially argues that our old models are too rigid, and in a fast changing world, institutions need to be more flexible and adaptive.
Right? And it seems like Yuan adds a really insightful perspective by arguing that crises, the ones we are facing today, aren't just problems to be solved, they're opportunities for transformative change.
Exactly. It's like they're saying, hey, what if the very crises that disrupt our systems could actually force a reinvention of those outdated structures? They believe that modern challenges, climate change, digital disruption, economic inequalities, can be catalysts for new institutional designs that are more resilient, forward thinking, and inclusive.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting. So, in terms of practical examples, did they discuss any specific instances or approaches on how these reinventions might occur?
They did. Jeff Mulgan talks about the Istanbul Innovation Days 2025, as an example of a forum where global leaders, thinkers, and innovators come together to explore these very challenges. It's a platform where real world examples, like reformed public policies or innovative economic models, are discussed.
Yep. And these examples, they seem to suggest that rather than just patching up old systems, we need a wholesale redesign, correct?
Yes, that's the idea. Essentially, they argue for rethinking the underlying architecture of institutions. And it's not just theoretical. They highlight that by critically re examining the strategies, we can start guidelines that serve emerging needs. It's almost like the crisis itself pushes us into reimagining and rebuilding these societal systems.
That's profound. But don't you think there's a risk in discarding old paradigms completely? I mean, aren't there valuable lessons in the past?
Good point there. And actually, Yuan Ang touches on that nuance. She suggests it's not so much about completely abandoning what worked, but rather reconfiguring those components to be more agile and responsive. It's like keeping the essence, but giving it a major upgrade for the modern era.
Yeah, I see that. Right? Sort of like renovating an old building to make it safe and modern without losing its historic charm.
Exactly. And think about it. It's like taking those core principles, transparency, accountability, participation, and embedding them within a structure that can quickly adapt to new challenges. Jeff and Yuan really push the idea that the crises of today, be it financial, environmental, or digital, they can be fertile grounds for reimagining governance and institutional architecture.
Indeed. And it's intriguing how they connect this to global development. They seem to suggest that if institutional architectures can reinvent themselves, global development itself could become more sustainable and equitable.
Absolutely. They argue that outdated institutional models are one of the major impediments to global progress. By updating these systems, we could unlock new ways to address global challenges, such as inequality and environmental degradation. It's like a reset button for how we approach development.
Yeah, for sure. There's also an underlying critique in their conversation, isn't there? They seem to challenge the idea that interventions are always top down.
Yes, exactly. They challenge the conventional top down, one size fits all approach. Instead, they champion a more adaptive, multi-directional process that leverages diverse inputs, from local knowledge to global innovations. And this participatory method might be key in reforming institutions in ways that are more democratized and responsive to real needs.
I like that idea. It reminds me of the concept of institutional bricolage, where you mix and match elements to suit current contexts. But do you think that's feasible on a large scale, say globally?
It's ambitious, and I think they admit that there are significant challenges to that kind of reinvention. In many cases, entrenched interests and bureaucracy stand in the way. However, the conversation really sparks the thought that crisis can lower resistance to change, kind of forcing institutions to adapt or risk complete failure.
Indeed, that's a real potential. That's true. It's like forcing the old guard to recognize that clinging to outdated methods is no longer viable when global issues demand new solutions.
Exactly, it's that pressure that drives innovation. It's almost as if the big problems themselves harbor the seeds of their own solutions. And I think that's a hopeful, albeit challenging perspective.
Absolutely hopeful and challenging. Now, shifting gears a bit, did they discuss how these reinventions might practically influence policymaking?
Oh, for sure. They delve into how policymaking needs to become far more experimental and inclusive. Jeff Mulgan, for example, suggests that institutions should incorporate mechanisms for ongoing learning and adaptation. It's sort of like continuous real time policy feedback loops that enable governments to respond to new data and insights rapidly.
I can imagine that such dynamic policymaking could cut through a lot of red tape that usually bogs down innovation.
Exactly. And it connects back to the entire theme of institutional reinvention. It's not just about structural change, but also about the processes and practices within institutions. Imagine decision making that's iterative and reflective rather than static and fixed. That's the sort of paradigm shift they're advocating for.
Yeah, that's pretty revolutionary. Now, there is a part where they almost seem to critique over reliance on data and technology in this context. Do you recall that?
Yes, indeed. Yuen Yuanang, in particular, warns against a blind faith in techno optimism. She argues that while technology can indeed facilitate better governance, it can't fully replace the need for human judgment, ethical considerations, and a strong political will. It's like, no matter how many smart algorithms we deploy, we still need real leadership to steer these transformations.
Right, real leadership is key. That's a crucial critique. There's always a risk of dehumanizing the process in the name of efficiency.
Absolutely. And that's where the beauty of their conversation lies, balancing optimism about innovation without losing sight of the political complexities and the human element. It's about finding that equilibrium between technocratic solutions and democratic participatory processes.
Exactly. In summary, it sounds like their dialogue invites us to see crises not solely as threats, but as opportunities to reframe our institutions and make global development truly sustainable and inclusive.
Precisely. And the conversation leaves us with a challenge to reimagine not only how institutions operate, but also to rethink our fundamental assumptions about progress, development, and, well, governance in this ever evolving
Yeah, that's
world.
a powerful takeaway. I'm intrigued by this idea of institutional reinvention as a pathway to address today's complex challenges. It makes you wonder what future models might even look like if we really take these lessons to heart.
Exactly. It's like envisioning a future where flexibility, inclusivity, and innovation are baked into the core of every institution. And though implementing such changes is no small feat, the conversation between Mulgan and Ang definitely lights a
Right
spark.
on. Well, it's been a fascinating dive into these ideas. Thanks for guiding us through it.
Thank you for the great questions. It's always refreshing to explore ideas that challenge traditional thinking while holding out hope for more adaptable and humane institutions in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And to our listeners, keep pondering how our current challenges could unlock opportunities for a better, reimagined future.
That wraps up our discussion for today. Stay curious and keep questioning the old paradigms, because sometimes the crisis is exactly what we need to catalyze meaningful change.
Yep, indeed.